Bit of encouragement in your life is a fantastic thing, isn't it? Now, listen, mate, you've led an interesting life. God's worked powerfully in you. You're very gifted at what you're doing now. What we want to do, what would be helpful for us is if we just go back a little bit in time. Keen to hear a bit more of the backstory of you to see how God got you to where you are. Yep. And so I want to ask the question, what led you into full-time ministry? So you're an adult, you're working in the insurance game, in the security game. I worked in the insurance game, you worked in the security game.
That's your testimony, it's my turn. Right?
This is your night, not my night. What led you from there into full-time ministry?
Okay, all right. So it might not come as a surprise to you, but many years ago I was in jail, but working as a private security. So, there was some chaplain friends that worked in the jail, and they were very encouraging for me. But yeah, I've just remembered the story earlier. I was actually president of Ambassadors Christian Motorcycle Club at the time, when the old offices were up where the top car park is now. And I had a couple of friends from the Christian bike scene come to me and said that I had a good head for jail ministry. It was about 10 years before that idea had any sort of legs. And as I was working in the jails over those 10 years, I had a very greedy couple of bosses above me. And every now and then the heat would get turned up so much that I would revisit the idea of, full-time ministry in some form. And so every few years I would ring Anglicare and knock on the door, so to speak, and inquire about being a prison chaplain, as they called them at the time. But the door was closed. The door was closed. And so that happened a few times over 8 or so years. Anyway, long story short, one day that door opened. Someone was trying to poach me and pull me into Church Army, and Tim Shire was his name. And all I knew that God was sort of put on my heart. I don't get those God told me moments, but God put on my heart, I just sense of it had to be Anglicare. There's something strong there with Anglicare. Anyway, so we set up the meeting with Anglicare, the door opened. And then that started me. I was heading to college at that point. So,
Gotcha. So that was early days. It looked like prison chaplaincy was the future for you. That's sort of what you had in your head.
Yep.
You head off to Moore College. Tell us about what that was like, and then what happened as you came out, and how God tweaked your original plan for prison chaplaincy.
Absolutely. So, I went to Moore Theological College, which has its roots from actually this church from many, many moons ago. Anyway, I went there, flying colours like my brothers here, it's a different set of colours, with my noisy Triumph, a 40-year-old Triumph, and I was a shag on a rock. And the lecturers really encouraged me and everything else, and the students did not know what to do with me. So it was a challenging 12 months, and I knew why I was there. God put on my heart to be a prison chaplain was the very strong sense of what I had to do. So I started doing some work experience in the jails. It became clear that there was no full-time prison chaplaincy gigs for me. And I'm like, oh wow, I've walked away from a well-paying job, halfway through the course, can't go back, only forwards. And I thought, all right, Lord, it's not that's not the end game, it seems, but I'll continue on. Maybe it's a hallway, not a door at the end of a hall. So I did that. That then led me to becoming a locum chaplain in the jails. So I'd just fill in. So guys would be sick, and I'd fill in for them and things like that. I'd spent about 11 months flying time as a chaplain across Long Bay and Parramatta Jail. And I was the last prison chaplain at Parramatta Jail before it closed. But little disclaimer, it didn't close because of me. So, and so in my time with the Anglicare chaplains, spending time in their meetings, it became clear that there were still no full-time gigs, but I'd now finished college at this point. And but where the big need was in the community. The guys that come out of jail, and girls for that matter, we all know what we want people like that to do: leave their mates and come to church, because we know it's the best place for them. They're going to hear the right message and all that sort of stuff.
Makes them better friends.
Absolutely.
Lead them in the right direction.
Yep. But it's such a big leap. It's too big. And so I started praying and talking to lots of people about that being some sort of bridge in that space.
So it's interesting looking back, isn't it? You start to panic, you're at college, you think the dream is full-time prison chaplaincy, but it's clear from early on that's not the dream, because God has another plan.
Yep.
And he's always preparing us for what's coming up, isn't he?
He knew what was going to happen a long time ago.
Exactly. So you're doing the locum prison chaplaincy, finish up with Parramatta, but it's clear to you that it's the post-release ministry to people that have left prison, that are trying to get themselves back into society.
Yep.
That's clearly the way for you.
Yep.
Now tell us how that door opens up.
Okay, so
and how you walk through it.
like I said, I was knocking on the door of Anglicare to get a foot in the door, and I even put a proposal in straight out of college to be at we're calling them post-release ministry. The term community chaplaincy came later, but it was at the time it was called post-release chaplaincy, and God put a couple of people in my path that really set me up for the confidence to go into one of the director's offices at Anglicare with a proposal, with the needs of what it would take, and I said, I'm willing to work 1 day a week if you just pay me. 2 days, whatever. This is what I want to do. I've been grown up in the church world, so I can speak church speak, and yet I've spent plenty of time in the Christian and outlaw motorcycle scene and other experiences to speak the language of others. And but someone like that come into church, they have all sorts of preconceived ideas. They're going to be judged. People will know what they've done, all those sorts of things, and so there's ice from the church in one sense, and as well. So there's ice here. They've got preconceived ideas of how the church people think, and often it's wrong. Maybe one or two might think like that, but generally speaking, they're wrong. And so there's this double layer of ice for a lot of them, and just getting to come into the church foyer is a miracle. If they get beyond that, that's another miracle. I can talk lots about that, but yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to be an icebreaker, and that's what I proposed to this director. And the director said, great idea, we get one of these every month. No. So I walked out of his office, and I went, all right, Lord, that's a not yet. So, yeah, that door didn't open at that time.
That's a theme, isn't it?
Bit of a theme.
Make the request. It's often wait, isn't it?
Yep.
And now, it's a wait, and then suddenly the door opens.
That's right. So backtracking a little bit, the guy with Tim Shire from Church Army came to an ambassadors meeting that I was running here on site, and wanted to pull me into Church Army. He saw I had some sort of value for ministry. And I said, look, I've just got to go through Anglicare door. So he set up the meeting on the door I'd been knocking on for those years leading up to before I even went to college. And there was a point in the meeting where the director, we sort of hit it off at a certain point. I thought, okay, right, I know what I'm doing. And Tim Shire, who set up the meeting, hopefully for it to go pear-shaped, then pull me into Church Army, went... So, and like I sort of felt that God was guiding me, the door opened.
That door opens. Now, where does it lead? Clearly, Glen Quarry.
Yep.
Tell us the Glen Quarry story.
I did the 11 hours flying time as a chaplain, on and off, as in locums here and there over about a 2-year period. And then I heard about a place called Break the Cycle in Macquarie Fields. The opening position was a men's shed coordinator, but the rector at Glen Quarry, Steve Swanepoel, knew that I'd been trained, I wanted to be a chaplain. my heart was for community chaplaincy now. And long story short, God did his thing. I got in a door as a men's shed coordinator, and the door opened up eventually to become 5-day-a-week employed chaplain and men's shed coordinator with Break the Cycle. And that season was 8.5 years long. The funding doing this at times, but anyway, yeah. Okay, so when I started working at Break the Cycle, this place was still my home church. My wife, who's hiding in the kitchen probably, and myself, oh, there she is. We've been here, this January coming, 25 years. And I didn't want to waste that opportunity of knowing locals and everything else. And so I was able to convince Break the Cycle to work here under Break the Cycle banner and paid via them, Anglican Aid money I was on, here a day a week. And then it sort of stayed mostly consistent for 8.5 years until the funding sort of dried up and that season was sort of done. 2017 was a special year. That's when Break the Cycle informed me that I was going to drop down to about 2 days a week pay from 4, I think at the time. That caused me to go, all right, I need to try and somehow attract some funding, got my website off the ground, and started promoting chaplaincy, because that's always been on my heart anyway, to not just be the guy, but to share the ideas with others, so, you know, guys like in South Tamworth can take the idea on, that sort of thing. So, in short, I try and achieve 3 things: to meet practical needs of people. So there's certificates. So there's pictures of certificates being issued there. Fines being shrunk or wiped away completely. I don't know if you know this or if you were here last time we did this a year and a half ago, but Chris, the guy who was on the video with the one leg, last time we did this, I presented a certificate to Chris for clearing $10,000 of fines. And if he was here tonight, I was going to give him another one because he forgot to vote. Anyway, let's not go there. He didn't come, but that would have been a little funny thing to do. Anyway. But it's not always in a forward direction, okay? But anyway, generally speaking, it is, okay, when God's involved. All right, so one of the things we're trying to do, with 3 things to try and do, and I do this similar thing, what I'm about to say now, in front of Liverpool Parole and Campbelltown Parole. Every year or 2 or 3 or whatever, I get to go there and get in on a staff meeting. So I try and do 3 things. One of them, meet people's practical needs. All sorts of different ways. Fine shrinking is one of those significant ways. One-on-one chats, referral to Anglicare, food and financial assistance, yada yada. Second thing is we challenge people's existing thinking. So in the courses, there's a couple of pictures up there. The photo on the left is some guys that have been coming to one of the rounds just out of COVID. You can see everyone's spread apart in the seating there. So once we're able to come back and get into COVID, I set up the room so we're all safe and masked up and at 1.5 and windows open and all those things you had to do, and just made it happen. The photo on the right of the ladies is some of the ladies here will recognise themselves maybe. That's actually from Break the Cycle days, when Where Empower started and started. So anyway, so challenge their existing thinking in the courses. So obviously there's Sorted, that runs Mondays for guys, and then on Tuesdays, Lauren, as you heard from Helen, does the Empower course on Tuesdays. So we challenge their existing thinking in the courses. And of course, the third thing I'm going to do as a ordained minister and someone who loves Jesus and wants other people to know him, introduce people to God. A couple of snapshots up there. The left-hand one is a Bible study that I call God Stuff, that I run on a Monday for guys and girls. And we have the lovely Karina to thank for that idea back in 2017. Can we give her a clap? I've never forgotten that conversation. Absolutely. And she said to me, you're a minister? I went, yep. You know, if you run a Bible study, that's classified as education under a WDO, like educational activity on a WDO. And I went, really? That's what I've been doing ever since. So the other photo on the right there is actually we used the same space for a monthly church service, and that was an opportunity for Tim to help me balance the load this crazy end of the year, and he had a preach up here before it way out. So anyway, so that's the God stuff that I run in the afternoon. Brief little story. One of the guys who hasn't been able to make it tonight, his name's Rob. Some of you guys will know him from church, coming and going. Met him at Break the Cycle. He came along. All he wanted was his license back. That's all he wanted, okay? And so I'd be doing the course, and we're talking about emotions and this and that, and every now and then I'm dropping a bit of God stuff in there, and he'd go, bloody God stuff. He'd fold his arms and, I could hear him up the front, Anyway, let's just say that God's done his thing. He's become a Christian. So I've dedicated the Bible study name to bloody God stuff. Anyway, I like the one-word things, easy for me to remember, right, and other people to remember. Way Out Fellowship Church turned 10 years old in April this year. And at its maximum exposure was running here once a month and at Glen Quarry while I was there. So the season with Glen Quarry is all done, but yeah, we still power on here. I spam people on my phone every Sunday morning. Come and get your weekly tune up here with me at church. And I stay in tune with God. Go figure. And when I do that, things go not too bad. Okay? Wife's still, happy to sleep with me, and the boys still want to talk to me when I follow his instructions. I mean, I need a weekly tune up every week. And I just talk like that to the guys, same reasons. You were saying the other day some interesting numbers about people that have actually I only come to one service, but there's 3 services, and people are coming to all 3. And what was the number you were thinking of?
Over 30 people regularly
just
at
like,
all 3.
That's God doing his thing. I'm just a tool, right? In every sense of that word. God doesn't need tools, but he chooses to use tools. Okay? It's only God in this. Are we all here? And that photo there is, as you were saying before, and Roger on the video, 2 days a week I work at Anglicare. Fridays I'm actually over in their building, which is on the other side of Westfields, and it's a SAF housing project, helping women over the age of 55 at danger of either they were homeless or they're about to be. And so they're now in special accommodation over there. And that's a snapshot of them here having one of their regular meetings, which I attend. Believe it or not, we were able to, the stage was just built. We've got those fancy little lights here and a few things. And they did karaoke. It was hilarious. They don't teach you that at Moore College, Be prepared for karaoke, as part of how you're going to minister to people. Okay, I didn't sing. Otherwise I would have left probably. But yeah, anyway, that's what a sort of a snapshot.
Some of those women come to church
Yes.
and come to the English classes here now.
So because 70% of the ladies, there's 111 ladies in the SAF housing project on the other side of Westfields that I'm trying to bring over here. So English for Life classes that the lovely Anna, your wife, is now running. Some have come to Empower, some have come to church, and I had a lady by the name of Layla, who, one of the photos in the Roger video towards the end, she's the first lady from there to do a WDO and finish it. So she had a little parking fine, but anyway, it was a nice little first off.
Every dollar counts.
It does.
It
does.
When you're desperate. Yeah. It's a phenomenal ministry that Stu does here, and I just want you to imagine a guy like this bedding into Liverpool for 25 years, probably another 40 to come, just how many people he can meet and love and transform their lives. So we want to get behind that and make that, help for that continue to happen here. So let's give him a big thank you for what he does here. It's fantastic.